Welcome again to another edition of IsoSports. I'm your host, Kid ISO, and this is just a part of the show where I break down the popular sports stories and I give you my opinion on it. It's very obvious. I think the Nuggets are going to go back to back, and unless something crazy happens in this next offseason, they probably are going to win three in a row. Today, we're talking about the NBA Finals. And in my opinion, the Denver Nuggets are winning the NBA Finals. And I don't think it will be that hard of a path. Barring injuries, nobody can beat this team 4 times in 2 weeks. Even when their best players play bad, at the end of games, they're still in it until the last minute of the games. They have had 2 losses since the All-Star break. One buzzer beater loss to the Mavs with Kyrie doing an amazing hook shot from mid-range one-handed, and a, a loss to Phoenix in overtime. Another game where Jokic, I think, had 6 turnovers and didn't play well. But again, they got to overtime. And the reason why they stay in games and the reason why I believe they won't be beat is because when games get tight, when palms get sweaty, at the end of games, they play better. This team is almost unbeatable in close games because of their excellent team play on both sides of the ball. Every guy has a role, they play it perfectly, and this team fits together as a well oiled, cohesive unit. The two-man game between Jokic and Murray, both as screeners and ball handlers. Athletic big Aaron Gordon slashing, cutting, offensive rebounding. MPJ and KCP moving without the ball. Their ability to shoot from the perimeter and their ability to attack closeouts when that help comes when they're about to shoot. Defensively, you also have a really big starting five with some good athletes, a few good defenders, and a team that just communicates, switches well, and is always able to get key stops down the stretch of games. Now, just watching them, you have that feeling that when the game gets tight, they get better. But if you look at the numbers, they have some of the best clutch numbers of any NBA team of all time. On both offense and defense, they seem to have a counter for everything they come across, and they learn from each possession and are able to implement that in the next possession to be better. And I mean, their only flaw really is probably a consistent bench, right? The bench is not that great. But come playoff time, I think that matters less because, again, your rotations are going to get tighter and your best players are going to be on the floor more. And what about that other team, that team in the East, the Boston Celtics? That's who I have matching up with the Nuggets in the NBA Finals this year. And I don't think they have a chance in hell and beat them. Okay? And both meetings this year, the Nuggets have prevailed, and everybody's been healthy for both games. But what this has proven really to me is that the Nuggets can exploit the Celtics' biggest flaws: lack of execution down the stretch. Now let's talk about the Celtics. The Celtics have been dominant from start to finish, and they've been rolling. And when they get rolling, it's very hard to stop them. The perimeter shooting, right? You have the new additions of Jrue Holiday and Porzingis to a team that already was in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and it's been in the Eastern Conference Finals, I believe, 3 out of the last 4 years, right? Now you added Jrue Holiday and you added Porzingis, and they've worked perfectly, and they've been a perfect fit in this team. And you have to give a lot of credit to Joe Mazzulla, the coach. Him understanding where to implement certain players, his understanding of how when you try to use a smaller guy to guard Porzingis, he's going to start posting him up so Porzingis can abuse him, right? You have your two defensive guards, stellar on both offense and defense, and Derek White, Drew Holiday. You have your two talented two-way wings, obviously Jason Tatum, who is a superstar, a top 7 to 10 player in the NBA, at least, at the very least, and a big, obviously, in Porzingis that can stretch the floor, post up, and protect the rim. Not to mention, maybe once or twice a series, you can count on Al Horford to have a really good game. But their issue is that I just don't trust them down the stretch. A lot of their signature wins this year have been just absolute blowouts and beatings of really good teams. And that's very impressive. But in the playoffs, in the finals, there's not going to be a lot of those blowout games. And do you really trust Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown down the stretch of games? Because the issue is the way that the Celtics play, one, by shooting and attempting so many threes, it puts you in a situation where if you're hot, yeah, you're going to knock down the threes. But if you're cold, they don't go to their second option. Sometimes you're sitting and you're watching the Celtics and you say, man, Jason Tatum looks like one of the bigger guys on the floor. Why is he not attacking the basket? He's settling for jumpers. You watch Jaylen Brown and you remember that he can't dribble with his left hand. And I'm thinking that they can still beat any team in the East just by talent alone. But when you play a team like the Denver Nuggets, who excels when the game gets to the end of games, and also another thing that the Boston Celtics don't do, they don't run enough plays where their two best players are in actions with each other. Whereas you look at the Nuggets, and Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, their whole offense is built around that two-man game and what they do together. There's way too many possessions where you just see Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum isolating, and the other one is just standing in the corner, not having anything to do with the play at all. And in close games, and in the playoffs, when you're playing better competition, you want the ball in your best player's hands. So, with that being said, it's very obvious. I think the Nuggets are going to go back-to-back. And unless something crazy happens in this next offseason, they probably are going to win 3 in a row. That's been IsoSports, guys. Thanks.